This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his good friend Taylor from Life Goal Investments. How you doing, buddy?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
I've been waiting for this question, right? We've done two other interviews. This is the third one, and it's really important to me. You know, you've been on Wall Street for 10 years, so I got to ask you, what kind of fireworks do you expect in the second half? The second half starts Friday. I can't believe it.
Yes, it does. Here we go. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, when we look at it from a broad economic standpoint, we think that there's probably continued weakening in the economy. And we've talked at length about this, and for all the reasons of the consumer, et cetera, the economy is going to continue to weaken some. And that's the market's forecasting that. That's obviously why we've seen a massive sell-off in the stock market, along with other things, et cetera. From an asset class standpoint, the second half of the year, what we anticipate is continued choppy markets when it comes to stocks, and probably a downward trend. We think things go lower from here. And we don't know how long that lasts. It depends on what happens with inflation, and it depends on what happens with the consumer. But if inflation, gets crazy in one direction or another, that could cause a bottom in the market, or it could cause a perpetuation down further. If inflation continues to come out hot, then you'll see the market gap down further. But if it starts to moderate some, and the Fed potentially could pivot, which again, we've talked about the likelihood or not of that, that could be where the bottoming process starts with stocks. Yeah. On the other hand, the other large asset class are bonds. We think bonds have likely put in the peak of where we've seen rates. So the bond sell-off, in other words, bonds, interest rates, and bond prices have inverse relationships. So the interest rates or yield on bonds have gone up, forcing bond prices down. To give context on that, bonds for the year are down, and I say bonds, think about the Barclays aggregate, which is S&P 500 are down about 11% this year, which is a massive, massive, massive move. The worst we've seen in the last 20 years of bond performance was down 2% in the entire year. We're down 11% in the first half. Wow. So we think probably things are overcooked on the bond side, and the projection for higher rates are fully built into bonds at this point, and the economic weakening that is to come will bring bond prices up via yields. Yields will come down, forcing bond prices up. And generally what you see historically, and I'll shut up here and let you speak too.
It's great.
What you see historically is bonds do really well right after peak inflation hits. And so we do see inflation weakening. I'm not saying fall off a cliff, but we do think that inflation has peaked. I've spoken about that. I was wrong. I thought it peaked before, and obviously the last print even went higher, but we think inflation has peaked and will start to roll over. And if you can invest in bonds after peak inflation hits, that's historically been the best time frame to invest in bonds. Treasuries have done, there have been years where they've done 20, 22, and 25% post peak inflation. So those are like knock out of the park numbers for bonds.
Yeah, I think there's so much there. So I'll kind of just peel it apart. I think peak inflation I think peak inflation is one of the next three prints.
Yep.
I think food.
One of the next 3 months is what you're saying there.
Yeah, next 3 months. Sorry. So it's either going to be June, July, or August readings, which will come out in July, August, or September. Right, they're a month after. I don't think we've seen it. I think I think rent lag. I think food. Oh my God, food. And then energy, we're it's still going up. Summer is the big driving season. So I think to that point, I do think peak inflation happens in the second half. I mean, that's something.
Right.
That's something.
Further into the second half, though.
Yeah, further in, right? It's one of the next three. I don't think we've seen the. We're gonna get a 9. We're gonna get something with a 9 on it. Is what I think.
Yeah. That's hot. I'll take the. Oil's actually starting to behave a little better than it was. Oil's actually come down some. So that's been the one that admittedly we had been wrong on. So my firm, Life Goal Investments, we had thought inflation had probably peaked before the last print, and where we were wrong. And we said this overtly, like if we're wrong, it's because we were wrong on our oil call. We didn't expect oil to perpetuate as high as it did. And so now it's coming back in. It's not to say that it is to stay, but we'll see it's starting to behave a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's also, by the way, that's also an indication potentially of a weaker economy coming.
Correct. Oh no, demand
because other raw materials have rolled over in a more meaningful way.
Lumber, copper, all of that.
Yep. All the big precious metals have basically rolled over. Lumber's, we talked about this, but lumber's been cut by 70% since the beginning of the year. So those kind of raw materials that are the inputs on more of the building materials, et cetera, that don't have the exogenous Russia event that's driving oil prices largely, have started to roll over already, saying the economy might be weakening.
Yeah. Then when we look at the S&P, just pick an index. I'll pick the S&P 500. I do think it trends lower from here. I don't know what it is today, 38 or something.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. Yep.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I haven't looked. I won't get excited about buying in, kind of deploying cash until until it's 3,200, right? And I don't know if it'll get there, but that's the only time I kind of I'll start deploying capital, is if it kind of has that kind of washout. Because again, I think back to video one, I think analysts are way off on. We've seen multiple correct or collapse, but we haven't seen the earnings yet. So I think more pain ahead there.
It's so well put. We've seen a massive compression of multiples, and that's due to and so what we talk about here is the price paid for $1 worth of earnings. So right now, the price paid for $1 worth of earnings is about 16 times. So if a company goes out and produces $1, we'll pay $16 for that as investors. At the beginning of the year, that was around 21. So we were willing to pay $21 for that $1 worth of earning. What caused that massive shift? Interest rates. As the Fed raises interest rates, it brings down the value of that price we're willing to pay for every $1 worth of earning. So that multiple has come down, but only because the price we're willing to pay has come down.
Correct.
Not because the actual earning, which is what you're referencing, not because the actual earnings have come in. And we both expect earnings to come in. And they're not only, to the point of our video one, not only are they not coming in, they're trending higher right now. They've trended higher from the beginning of the year until now.
Yeah, that's crazy. The other thing, again, I called very early, I think it was in the first conversations we had, I pegged a recession Q2, Q3 of next year. I don't feel good about that call now. I'm not going to change it because I will admit when I'm wrong. Do you think we actually get the official definition of a recession sometime this year, meaning 2 negative quarters of GDP, even if they're small negatives? But do you think we get back-to-back negative? And it could be this quarter, frankly.
It could be this quarter. There's about a 50% chance that this quarter prints a negative GDP.
Yeah, the Atlanta Fed, right? They're at 0 today, their expectation. Yeah.
Yep. And it'll be updated again today too. So we'll see where it goes. But 0.0. And if it comes in above that, we aren't in a recession.
No.
If they come in below that, obviously we're in a recession, as Q1 came in as a recession.
Correct.
It's just, I don't know that we get outright recession. I did, going back to our original calls, I said that things were going to break sooner than you.
Yeah.
Where I was right was I still think that things are going to break sooner. Where I was wrong is the fact that it was going to take, that they weren't going to be able to raise rates as much as they have been able to.
Yeah.
And that's where you were certainly right. And you continue to say, like, they're going to, and they are.
They're going higher.
September, they're going to continue to go higher. Right.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting. It's just hard to argue right now that CEOs look at the economy and say, yeah, let's go out and spend. Let's go out and hire that next talent. Let's go out and build out this next factory. Let's go out and put a bunch of R&D on the line and expect the consumer to be on the other side just wanting whatever we produce and being able to afford it. It's really hard to think that right now. Inflation's too high. Unemployment's low, but it seems like it's going to be growing here. You're starting to see layoffs in tech. You talked about starting to see layoffs potentially come through in financials. They're going to start to bleed through in more places. And so I don't think it's unlikely at all that this print shows negative and we see a negative Q2 GDP. And that means we're officially in a recession. It won't be a big print negative if it is. The original print that we had, Q1, was a real kind of import-export mishmash that caused it to be negative, a dramatic change from what the analysts expected it to be. They expected it positive. It was about 2% off of what they expected. And it was that kind of import-export mishmash. That should have corrected itself at this point. But I do think that I'll take the under. I think that probably it goes negative here.
Yeah. And if it will, I'll be first to admit I was wrong on that call. So I like to do that. Next, we have 4 Fed meetings left this year. Do you think we get a pause this year at any meeting? Or do you think they raise it? Okay.
Yeah, and I say we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but yeah, I think we do get a pause.
Okay.
And granted, I had been wrong before. I thought we would get a pause earlier. I thought that I didn't think we would have a pause at this point, but I certainly didn't think you were going to see 75 basis points the last one.
Yeah.
And the Fed obviously saw white hot inflation. The market priced it in before, and they were able to move it that way. I do think you get a pause this year.
Okay.
I don't think you get a cut.
No.
I think it would take some real crazy things in order to get a cut. But if you look back to 2018, 2018, the Fed raised rates coming into the end of the year in December, and they cut rates in July of 2019. So it's not like this is like some crazy thing that in 6 months they can't turn around. They certainly can. But inflation's stubborn right now.
Yeah.
And it would take you being really wrong on inflation. And I don't think you are.
Yeah.
I do think that we've already seen the peak and it's going to trail off, but it would take a meaningful trail off for them to feel comfortable to actually go back and cut, or not comfortable to be, going in and cutting means they see really, really tough.
Yeah. They're not comfortable. They're scared.
Yes, exactly. Cutting is scared, right?
Yes.
Comfortable is their ability to raise. Scared is their cutting on the other end.
Yeah.
Well put.
So let's talk about July Fed meeting. What do you think the odds are they do 75 or anything else? Right.
So I admittedly I cheated right before this, and I went and looked. What the market's
I like it.
What the market's saying is that 75 is about a 95% chance.
Yeah, I'm all in on the 75. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the under if anything.
Okay.
But the thing is with the Fed is if the market prices something ahead of time,
They're just
it
gonna
means
take it.
the prices are already baked in. If they want to take it there, they're going to take it there. So 75, if it's already priced, which it is, looks like it's probably most likely, even though at the last meeting they said 75 isn't going to be the trend that continues.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but they've already talked out of both sides of their mouth before. So this is nothing new for them.
Yeah. So do you think we end the year with the Fed funds with a 3 on it?
No.
Okay.
The market does.
Yeah, the market
does. The market has it at between 325 and 375 right now. Yep. I don't think it gets there. I think that it has to pause. So we're at 150 right now, 150 to 175.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a point and a quarter higher. I don't think we get there.
Yeah. So I actually called 3 way back when. So we'll see.
Before it was cool.
Yeah. Before I called it way before it was cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. So, I guess the other thing that happens in the second half of the year, which I don't know if is market moving or not, we have midterm elections. I think everybody expects just a blowout, turn the House, turn the Senate.
Yep.
Does that move the market at all? I don't know.
Oh, it certainly does.
Okay.
It certainly does. In normal times. In normal times, it does. So what it does is increase volatility dramatically in a midterm election year. Okay. Volatility's high.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to make the market move more than 5% a day, which we've seen a couple times this year. But yeah, no, it is dramatic. What the market likes is certainty. So they like the gridlock that the market is expecting to experience moving forward. What I mean by that is obviously the Democrats owning the executive branch. And then you obviously see the legislative branch looking like it's going to lean right. So you have a leftward leaning president and a rightward leaning Congress. And that shows that they aren't going to be able to get anything done. Yeah. And what that means to folks that are prognosticating on where the economy is going to go, et cetera, is there's no exogenous event out there that's going to shock it one way or the other. Because if the Republicans try to do something far right, the president's not going to pass it. If the president tries to do something that leans far left, Congress is not going to pass it. So the gridlock, although it seems like nothing's going to get done, the market actually goes like, we know the rules. We know how to forecast based on the rules that currently are in place. They're going to continue to be in place.
Very cool. Well, this is a lot of fun. Any other closing thoughts about the second half? And then how can people?
No, I'm fired up about it too. Obviously, like these are cool economic times. We're going to look back and see 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now, these couple of years are going to be in textbooks and saying, here's what monetary policy does. And how does it shake out? We don't know. Like what's interesting right now is we have never had quantitative easing and now quantitative tightening in an inflationary environment.
Yeah.
So like, what does LifeGoal think? What does Goldman Sachs think? What does the Fed think? No one knows exactly how this is going to play out. So anyone talking with like super definitive nature on how things are exactly going to play out, it's just not true. What you need to do right now when it comes from an investing standpoint, which is what we do, is you need to diversify and hedge bets. don't overextend yourself. Granted, we think the economy is going to continue to taper off here. We're not 100% certain that's going to happen. We can't talk with that conviction. So we have to have diversified portfolios with things that correlate lowly in case we are wrong. And in case things go back in a positive direction, the pendulum swings back the other way. We don't know if or not that's going to happen. So we want to diversify. Yes, we lean a little bit more in that we think the economic slowdown camp is happening, but you can't get over your skis because again, this is uncharted territory.
Yeah. The biggest thing that scares me going forward is the QT, quantitative tightening, right? We've done it before. It broke stuff. We're doing it now. It will break stuff. But it'll be in some part of probably the debt market that we don't expect. And that makes me nervous.
Yeah. We'll see. It'll be fun to watch it play out.
There you go. Well, where can people find you, Taylor?
Yeah, find us at Life Goal Investments on Instagram is the best place to find us. Daily content there on economic, market, personal finance stuff.
You guys are doing a great job. I see your stuff every day, comment a lot. So keep it up,
man. Thanks for the nice comments.
You got it. Take care.